Hello, this is Always Movie Madness, and I'm going to be reviewing Captain Marvel. Now, this movie is still my least favorite MCU movie. It's one of the MCU movies I go back to the least because of just how boring and uninteresting it is. The storyline is just not that interesting because it focuses on Carol Danvers. She lost her memory. She doesn't know who she is. She has to team up with Nick Fury to take down the Skrulls. Then she finds out that the Skrulls are good. Then she finds out that the Kree are the real villains. It's up to her to take down her mentor, Yon-Rogg, and save the world. And that's it. That is the entire storyline. I don't have to explain why it's boring. It's just really dull. But let's talk about the performances, which sadly just has a great cast. Brie Larson, who plays Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers, she's just boring. She just gives one of the most boring MCU hero performances, and one of the most boring MCU performances of all time. She doesn't really emote, and she just feels like she's phoning it in. It feels like she's just going through the motions. The character of Captain Marvel I never liked. I always thought she was boring. She just doesn't smile. She's just a zombie. And the way I can sum up her character is that she's just Jean Grey in the MCU. The way Famke Janssen acted as Jean Grey in X3. That's exactly how Brie Larson acts in this movie, as well as the character of Captain Marvel. She doesn't really go through a character arc. Samuel L. Jackson is the best actor in the movie. He does a decent job as Nick Fury. He did what he needed to do, but the character of Nick Fury is pretty bad. They make him overly silly, which Nick Fury's not a funny character. He is just stone cold serious. But in this movie, they say, let's make Nick Fury funny. And that was just the big problem for me. The de-aging on him was really good. Ben Mendelsohn is the biggest disappointment in this film. Coming off the heels of Ready Player One, a really great movie, and I really enjoyed that film. And he played Nolan Sorrento, who is a tremendous villain. You watch him in this movie as Talos, you don't give a shit about him. It feels like Ben Mendelsohn was just not giving a shit. He just went through the motions, just wanted to get this movie over with. And I don't blame him for being unhappy with this movie. He just feels like he was bored. Talos as a character, I don't feel like talking about. He's boring. He dies in Secret Invasion. Moving on from that, he's just boring. Gemma Chan. Now, here's the funny part. I forgot what the fuck her character was in this movie. She worked for Yon-Rogg, and she was boring. She didn't really give a shit in this film. It felt like she was getting the most lifeless performance in the MCU. Although it's kind of weird that they brought her back to play Cersei in Eternals, which that was a decent movie. Sadly, it's more entertaining than this movie. And Gemma Chan, she actually did a terrific job as Cersei. But in this movie, no, she did not do a great job. She's just really boring. Now let's talk about the worst thing, and I always hate this, Jude Law as Yon-Rogg. I fucking hate this character. I really do. Jude Law's performance is the most nothing performance in the MCU. It's nothing. It's nothing, and it's garbage. And he's just so boring to watch. There was a character Jude Law could have played in this movie. Maybe not the main villain, but like as an overarching villain, like Korvac. That would make more sense if you had Korvac in the background, and then you put him in like Phase 4, and then you're like, oh, Jude Law the next villain in Captain Marvel 2. That would make sense, but no, they cast him as the most boring MCU villain. Yon-Rogg is such a forgettable antagonist. He's nothing. The twist reveal where he ends up going in the third act is so fucking predictable. And if you want to watch a similar villain to Yon-Rogg but done right, just go watch Richard Madden as Icarus from Eternals. Because Icarus, much like Yon-Rogg, starts out good, but then at the end he goes like, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm gonna kill all of you. Which that was a great villain turn. Like, I think Icarus going evil was actually very shocking. But here, it doesn't work because, again, they don't develop Yon-Rogg as a character. And the scene where he just turns on Captain Marvel just doesn't make sense. Again, getting back to Icarus, the way he turns on his team, the Eternals, was actually really cool. Even Sprite kind of betrays them and goes with her lover, Icarus. It worked there. But, again, Yon-Rogg just boring villain. The action sequences are nothing. They're just bland as fuck. The climactic battle was also pretty dull. Aside from one joke I found funny with Goose the Cat. And Goose the Cat is the only thing I liked in the entire movie. That was it. Like, she was the best thing in this film. And when your best character is a Flerken and not the main character, that just shows how boring this movie was. Again, the scene with the little girl, I don't blame the actress who plays young Monica Rambeau. She did the best she could, but it felt like a copy-paste scene from the scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp when Cassie gives her father, Scott Lang, advice how to help Hope bring back her mother from the quantum realm. And that was a tremendous scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But here, I don't think they executed it well at all. So in conclusion, I think this is still the worst MCU movie. It's bland, it's boring. I would say this is the most unwatchable MCU movie. It's just uninteresting. The main character is boring. Nick Fury, unfortunately as well, as much as Samuel L. Jackson tries, he's just not good enough to save this entire film. The villains sucked. Korath the Basilar, Ronan, they were all boring. I liked them in Guardians of the Galaxy, but here they're just nothing characters. The villain Yon-Rogg sucks. Jude Law is a great actor, but he was just utterly bored in this movie. He's just really boring in it. Again, I think he had potential because recently Jude Law said, oh, I want my character to have more screen time, more scenes, more emotional stuff, a tragic backstory. But what did the MCU do? They shut Jude Law out, and they just ruined his chance of being a great villain. The action sequences were not as good. I mean, they were just really bad. And I'm going to say, this has the worst action sequences in the MCU, even worse than Thor Love and Thunder, because as much as I did like the climax in Thor Love and Thunder, as silly as it was, at least you had Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher to keep you entertained. Sadly, I'd rather watch Thor Love and Thunder, as overly ridiculous as that film was. Christian Bale was not the problem. But overall, I give Captain Marvel a 1 out of 10. It's just a really dull and uninteresting film. So anyway, that is my review of Captain Marvel. Hope you guys enjoyed.